He noticed her before he meant to. Not in the loud, obvious way most people notice someone, but in that quiet second when everything else softens. The low murmur of voices, the clink of a glass, the flicker of light against her hair. She was sitting by the window, one leg crossed over the other, her posture unhurried, her attention elsewhere. The kind of woman who didn't need to look up to command a room. Her presence had a gravity to it, like the pause before rain. He tried not to stare. I tried to look elsewhere. But the moment stretched, and his gaze lingered one beat too long. Long enough for her to feel it. When she finally turned, their eyes met, not in surprise, but in recognition of something neither wanted to name. Her lips curved just slightly, not a smile, not quite a warning. The air between them tightened. He hadn't planned to talk to her. He was just helping a friend close the cafe after hours, cleaning tables, wiping down counters. She was the last one there, a late customer with a half-finished glass of wine and a book she wasn't really reading. When he brought the check to her table, she looked up. "Are you trying to get rid of me?" she asked. Her voice was low, amused, the kind of voice that carried its own quiet music. "Not at all," he said, catching himself before adding, "I don't think I could if I tried." She tilted her head, studying him. Good answer. Then she returned to her glass, pretending to read. But he saw the way her thumb traced the stem, slow, deliberate. He wiped the same spot on the counter 3 times, pretending to be busy. The clock ticked louder than it should have. Outside, rain started to fall, soft at first, then steadier. The kind that turned reflections into watercolor. "You're going to get caught in that," he said. "I was planning to," she replied without looking up. Then, softer, "It's only water." He almost smiled. Something about the way she said it made his chest tighten. She wasn't flirting, not exactly. But there was a weight in her tone, a kind of daring that felt like a challenge. He didn't know what to say next. She did. "Don't look at me like that," she said finally, eyes still on her book. "How am I looking at you?" She turned a page that didn't need turning. "Like you're trying to decide if you should." He hesitated, the corner of his mouth lifting. "Should what?" She looked up this time. The distance between them seemed smaller than it had a moment ago. "Tempt me." The word landed somewhere deep, heavy. For a heartbeat, neither of them breathed. He could have laughed it off, could have stepped back into the safety of small talk, but something about her gaze made that impossible. Instead, he said quietly, "Then stop making it so hard not to." She didn't move. Just let the words hang there, suspended in the soft light. Her lips parted slightly, like she might answer, or maybe just breathe him in. Then the sound broke the moment. A phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen, her face shifting, something unreadable passing through her expression. She reached for the phone, but didn't answer. When she looked back up, her smile was gone. "I should go," she said, standing too quickly. He wanted to say something, stay, wait, don't, but the words stuck. At the door, she paused. The rain blurred her reflection in the glass. For a second, she looked back, just once, and in that glance was everything he hadn't said. Then she was gone. The door closed softly behind her, but her scent, faint jasmine and rain, stayed. He stood there, still holding the cloth, as if she might walk back in. Outside, the streetlight flickered once. And somewhere between the rain and her absence, he knew. This wasn't over. It happened on a Sunday, one of those rare afternoons when the house was quiet, everyone gone. Lucas was helping her fix the shelf that had come loose in the hallway. She had insisted she could do it herself. He had insisted on staying. "Careful," she said, handing him a screwdriver. Their fingers touched, brief, electric. Neither of them acknowledged it. He knelt to tighten the screws, aware of her standing close behind him. Too close. The faint scent of her perfume drifted down. Jasmine again, only softer this time, like it had faded into her skin. "You shouldn't be here," she said after a moment. "I'm helping." She crossed her arms, leaned against the wall. "That's not what I meant." He looked up, meeting her gaze from where he knelt. "I know." The air between them thickened, heavy with things unsaid. She looked away first, brushing invisible dust off the shelf. He stood, the small space between them disappearing completely. "You keep saying I shouldn't," he said quietly, "but you never tell me to stop." She exhaled sharply, part laugh, part warning. "You think everything has to mean something, don't you?" He stepped back half a pace, searching her face. "No, I think some things are already due." Her jaw tightened. "You don't understand the cost of this." "Then teach me." She didn't move, but her eyes softened for the smallest second, a flicker of surrender quickly hidden. Then footsteps echoed down the hall. "Mom," her son's voice called from outside. The door creaked open. She stepped back instantly, brushing her hair over her shoulder, forcing calm. Lucas turned toward the sound, heart hammering. "In here," she said, voice steady. Her son poked his head in. "Oh, hey, man. Didn't know you were still helping." "Yeah," Lucas said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Just finishing up." Her son grinned, oblivious. "Cool. Pizza's here. Are you staying?" Before he could answer, she spoke. "He's got plans," she said quickly. Her tone was casual, but her eyes said please don't. He nodded. "Yeah, maybe next time." When her son left, silence fell again, thick with everything they'd almost done, almost said. She turned her back, pretending to check the shelf. "You should go," she murmured. He hesitated. "If I do, are you going to pretend this never happened?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached for the screwdriver still in his hand, her fingers closing over his. The touch was deliberate this time. Her skin is warm, trembling slightly. He froze. The air between them pulsed, a heartbeat, a breath, a possibility. Then she pulled the tool free, stepped aside, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't make me want to remember this." He stood there, breath unsteady, watching her turn away. Outside, rain began again, soft against the windows, steady, relentless. He wanted to say something, anything that would keep her from walking away again. But the words didn't come. She reached for the light switch, pausing just before it went dark. Her voice, almost breaking. "Lucas." He looked up, a half step closer, hope flickering. But she didn't finish. The light clicked off. Darkness swallowed the rest. She hadn't planned to see him again. Not after what almost happened in the dark. But life, as if mocking restraint, found its own ways of closing the distance. Her son's birthday, a quiet gathering, laughter spilling from the kitchen, music humming in the background. Lucas had come early to help set up. She hadn't known. When she walked in, their eyes met over a half-inflated balloon and a mess of wrapping paper. He froze mid-laugh. She stopped mid-step. "Hi," he said softly, the single word carrying everything they hadn't said in weeks. She nodded once. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured under her breath as she brushed past him toward the counter. "Your son invited me," he replied. "I wasn't sure you'd." She didn't let him finish. "Then stay for him. Not for me." But he heard the tremor beneath her calm, the one that betrayed her control. Hours passed in slow torture. Every accidental glance felt deliberate. Every movement was too careful, every shared silence too loud. He found her alone later in the kitchen, leaning against the sink, her back to him. The faint hum of the refrigerator filled the space between them. "You've been avoiding me," he said quietly. "I've been doing what's right," she answered, not turning around. "For who?" Her fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. "For everyone." He stepped closer, his reflection catching in the window beside hers, their faces a few inches apart, separated by the glass and their own hesitation. "Do you ever think about that night?" he asked. She let out a slow, uneven breath. "Every day? That's why I can't do this." He moved closer until his voice brushed her ear. "Then why does it feel like you already are?" Her breath hitched. She turned then, slowly, until she was facing him. The kitchen light haloed her hair, catching the faint tremor in her hands. "You think this is simple?" she whispered. "That attraction excuses everything?" "No," he said. "But pretending it's not there doesn't erase it." Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but something deeper, anger tangled with longing. "You have no idea what it's like to want something you're supposed to walk away from." "I do," he said. "I'm looking at it." Silence. The kind that felt alive. He reached out, not touching her. Not yet, just close enough that his fingers hovered near hers. She didn't move away. When he finally brushed his thumb across her hand, she exhaled sharply, almost a shiver. "Lucas," she warned, but her voice broke halfway through his name. "Tell me to stop," he said. She closed her eyes. The moment stretched, unbearable, suspended between will and want. Her hair brushed his hand as she shook her head, barely. "I can't." And then, a knock at the door. They both flinched, the spell breaking. Her son's voice echoed from the hallway, cheerful, close. She stepped back instantly, breathing hard, eyes wide with something like panic or regret. He stayed frozen, his hand still half raised, the warmth of her skin lingering like an echo. She didn't look at him as she whispered, "This has to stop." But her fingers were still trembling, and he knew she didn't believe her own words. The door opened. Light from the hallway spilled in, and they stood there, inches apart, hearts racing, on the edge of what couldn't be undone. It happened 2 days later. He wasn't supposed to be there, but when her son texted, "Can you drop off the spare charger Mom left here?" Lucas didn't think twice. He told himself it was innocent, just an errand. It wasn't. She opened the door before he could knock twice. Her hair was undone this time, falling over her shoulders in loose waves. No makeup, no armor. "Lucas," she said, a surprise flickering before she masked it. "You shouldn't. Your son asked me to bring this." He held up the charger like proof of good behavior. His hand was steady. His voice wasn't. She took it, her fingers brushing his, a static pulse, quick and unintentional. "Thank you. You should have left then." He didn't. "Can I come in?" he asked. She hesitated. Her eyes darted past him toward the empty driveway, then back. Only for a minute. Inside, the house was quiet, too quiet. The air felt heavy, like the silence itself was listening. She walked ahead, barefoot, the faint scent of coffee and perfume trailing behind her. "You've been avoiding me," he said. "I'm trying to protect you," she replied without turning. "From what?" "From me." He almost smiled, but it wasn't amusement, it was disbelief. "You think that's still possible?" She turned sharply then, eyes bright, voice shaking despite her control. "You don't know what you're asking for. You don't know what this could cost. Then tell me." She didn't answer. Her throat moved as she swallowed something. Words, maybe guilt. Her hand found the edge of the counter, gripping it until her knuckles whitened. "You think I don't want you," she whispered. "You think I'm strong enough to keep pretending I don't." He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "Then stop pretending." Her breath caught. Her hand slipped from the counter, brushing against his shirt as if by accident, but neither of them moved to correct it. That's when the sound came. A faint click, the soft mechanical whir of a door unlocking. Her face was drained of color. "He's home," she whispered. Her son's voice followed a moment later, casual, calling from the hallway. "Mom? You here?" Panic flashed across her face. "You have to go." Lucas stepped back, heart pounding. But before he could move, the boy's footsteps grew louder, too close. She did the only thing she could think of. She grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the small laundry room off the kitchen, closing the door behind them with a quiet click. They stood pressed together in the dark, barely an inch between them, the air thick with the smell of detergent and rain-soaked fabric. Her heartbeat raced against his chest. Her breath brushed his neck. Every second felt stretched, dangerous, endless. Her son's footsteps passed right outside the door, then faded. Neither of them moved. She looked up at him then, eyes wide, scared, wanting. "This can't keep happening," she whispered. But her hand was still on his chest, trembling. He could feel the contradiction in her pulse. Fear and desire tangled beyond reason. Outside, the front door shut again. Silence returned. He leaned closer, voice low. "Then why aren't you letting go?" Her lips parted, a breath caught between them. "Because I can't." The words landed like confession, like surrender. And in that small, dark room, where every sound mattered and every inch burned, the danger between them stopped being imagined. It became real. They didn't speak for days after the laundry room. Not through messages, not in passing. The silence was its own kind of storm, building quietly, waiting to break. When it did, it was late. "It's nearly midnight." She called him. Just his name. Nothing else. He didn't ask why, he just came. The rain had already started when he reached her house. The door was unlocked, lights dim, a single lamp painting the room in amber. She was sitting by the window again, knees drawn up slightly, a glass of wine untouched beside her. He stopped in the doorway. "You shouldn't have called me." "I know. You did anyway." "I know that too." He stepped closer, slow, careful. "Why now?" She looked up at him. Tired, beautiful, unguarded. "Because I'm done pretending this doesn't matter." He swallowed. "And when it does?" "Then it hurts," she said. "And maybe it's supposed to." The space between them seemed to breathe, the quiet filled with the sound of rain hitting glass. He sat across from her, leaning forward. "Tell me to go, and I will." She didn't. Her eyes searched his face, tracing something she'd tried for weeks to unsee. You remind me what it feels like to be wanted, she whispered. And that scares me. He reached out, fingers hovering near hers. It scares me too. Her hand moved first, a small, trembling motion, until her fingertips met his. The contact was fragile, hesitant, like testing the edge of something dangerous. Neither pulled away. When she finally spoke, her voice was almost inaudible. If we do this, everything changes. He leaned in, just enough that her breath brushed his cheek. It already has. A pause. The kind that holds everything: fear, longing, inevitability. Her eyes closed. You're making this impossible. Then stop fighting it. For a moment, it felt like the world narrowed to the sound of their breathing. The lamp flickered slightly, catching the shimmer in her hair, the rise and fall of her chest. He lifted his hand, slow, deliberate, tracing a loose strand of hair back behind her ear. His knuckles brushed her jaw, his fingertips grazing the side of her neck. She inhaled sharply, not from surprise, but recognition. That this closeness, this trembling quiet, was what they had both been running from. Her voice broke the silence. This isn't supposed to happen, but it's happening anyway, he said. Her eyes opened then, locking onto his. Something shifted, not surrender, not defeat, just truth. He leaned forward until their foreheads nearly touched. Neither kissed, neither moved, just breathed the same air, suspended on the edge of decision. Finally, she whispered, if you stay, you can't be the one who walks away. I won't. She hesitated, a heartbeat, a lifetime, and then let out a soft, unsteady breath, her hand sliding to rest against his chest. Then don't make me regret this. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. Inside, the last of their resistance broke, not in words, but in the silence between them, where everything was finally understood. And as the rain pressed against the windows, the lamplight flickered once more, leaving them caught in that single, fragile moment between what was forbidden and what could no longer be undone. Morning came quietly. The storm had passed, leaving the air washed clean and still. Through the open window, light fell across the room in soft, uneven stripes, the kind of light that made everything look honest. She stirred first, half awake, eyes fluttering open to the sound of rainwater dripping from the eaves. For a long moment, she didn't move, just listened to the rhythm outside and the slower, steadier one beside her. Lucas was lying on his side, one arm draped loosely over her waist. His breathing was calm, unguarded. She studied his face, the faint curve of his mouth, the quiet peace there, and felt the ache of all the nights she'd spent trying to resist this. When he opened his eyes, the look that passed between them wasn't the wild, forbidden thing it once was. It was something quieter, steadier, a knowing. Morning, he murmured, voice still rough with sleep. She smiled, small but real. You shouldn't look at me like that this early. Like what? Like you already know how the day's going to end. He reached up, brushed his thumb across her cheek, a gesture so gentle it almost broke her. I just know I'm here, he said. That's enough for now. She hesitated, searching his eyes for fear, for regret. There was none, only the soft certainty of someone who had already made peace with the choice. For the first time, she let herself relax into it. The warmth, the weight, the quiet belonging that had once terrified her. They didn't speak for a while after that. There was no need. Outside, the streets slowly came alive. A car passing, a dog barking somewhere distant, the faint hum of life returning after the storm. She turned toward him, her hand tracing lazy circles along his forearm. You know this won't be easy, she said softly. He smiled, not naive, not reckless. Nothing worth keeping ever is. Something in her chest eased then, the part that had been bracing for loss. She exhaled, eyes closing briefly. When she opened them again, the sunlight had shifted, warmer, fuller, filling the space between them. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead gently against hers. No words, no promises, just that quiet touch that said everything words couldn't. When he finally kissed her, it wasn't rushed or desperate. It was soft, the kind of kiss that comes after everything has already been decided. And for once, she didn't pull away. Later, as they sat together by the window, their fingers intertwined, she looked out at the sky, clear now, streaked with pale blue. Funny, she murmured. I used to hate the rain. He glanced at her, smiling faintly. And now Now it reminds me how everything starts again after it ends. He squeezed her hand, a quiet promise, unspoken but understood. And in that small, sunlit moment, there was no guilt, no distance, just two people who had stopped running. Two people who finally chose to stay. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? More forbidden slow burn romance, quiet emotional drama, or something completely different?